If you're fishing with LiveScope this winter, you already know all the baits that everyone tells you should be using. A jerkbait, a blade bait, an Alabama rig, and of course the jig head minnow. And all of those baits work. But LiveScope also shows you something that most anglers don't want to admit. And that is how many bass actually see your bait versus how many bass actually bite it. So in this video, I'm not going to show you what everybody else is talking about. I'm going to give you 4 baits to pick up when all those other baits stop working. And one of those baits is going to be a spoon. Now this time of year, I love a good jigging spoon. And we just did a video. This is the Duh Spoon 2.0. They've made some changes to it. This thing has got some incredible fall action, flutter action. This is one of my favorites. This is a 3/4 ounce. And they've built in the swivel to this. So you never have to worry about getting your swivel, getting that line twist again. And this is by Nichols. This is one of my favorites because you can get out there over those deeper humps, over those deeper schools, because the way this is shaped, when you drop it, if you just hold a little bit of tension so it doesn't just kind of go crazy on your spool, what you get is a very fast vertical fall out of this bait that's going to get down there quick. And one of the things I love to do with LiveScope with this is when they're down there in those bait balls is to drop this right down in the middle of it and just start ripping it up, because it gets the bait to run, and all of a sudden the bass see this and it's like, hey, what are you doing acting all crazy? And they munch on it. Now, I will still use a casting spoon this time of year. This is the Mojo spoon. I've got it wrapped because of the clear water. Now, a lot of times in the wintertime, I'll take this wrap off because I want some flash, a little more flash in the wintertime. But this is a 1/2 ounce spoon. And this is something that sometimes, like this week, we've had a good warm up. We had the warmest Christmas day that we've ever had on record. So we've been in the 60s here the tail end of December, and they get up shallow. So sometimes you can stay back and throw this little casting spoon up there in 8 or 10 feet, 10 or 15 feet, 20 feet. And this little thing a lot of times will get you some big bites when they're up there chasing those shad or just out in open water. Now, of course, if they're around some bigger bait fish, you can upsize. But a lot of times for me, especially this time of year, I'm going with my 2 favorite spoons from Nichols, the Mojo and the Duh Spoon 2.0. Now, by the way, if you want to go see an incredible little video on how to fish the Duh Spoon and really a great breakdown on it for the wintertime with and without forward-facing sonar, stick around to the end. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video. And a spoon is number 4. Next has got to be a hair jig, and whether it's when you fish for suspended bass or for bass that's on the bottom, a hair jig is a winter time staple. Now, let's talk about this little hair jig first. This is a hair jig from Big Daddy Baits. Probably one of my favorite hair jigs. I love how they put the fluff in there. When you drop this in the water, it's got a very shad-like body, so it doesn't go completely flat. This right here stays puffed up, and of course this straightens out. It comes in several different colors. And I love that they put the eyes on the jig head, and this is tungsten also. So you're going to see it real well on your LiveScope. You're going to see it real well on forward-facing sonar, whatever brand you're using. This I'm going to use for those suspended bass. So the same way you use a jig head minnow, we're going to tie a loop knot on this. We're going to throw it out there, drop it down, and we're just going to shake it and wait for them to take it. And I about forgot to tell you the name of it. This is called the Spotlighter from Big Daddy's Baits. Now, a big misconception when it comes to fishing LiveScope is that you can only do it deep or in open water. And let me tell you, me and Mike, we've been fishing a little bit little bit of deep water. But last spring, we caught 4 largemouth down a stretch of bank. And as a matter of fact, in this creek that we're in right now, on an A-rig, and they were probably in 3 to 5 feet or less. I mean, I was literally having to throw the A-rig up and almost on the bank and drag it off. And something else that we've been doing a lot here lately during the summer is we've been throwing jigs. And so we've been using our LiveScope and getting it tweaked in to be able to see those bass up there shallower. 1, 2, 3, 4 feet. You can use it to beat the bank. It's kind of something that I find is a pretty big misconception when it comes to LiveScope, is that it's useless in shallow water, and it is anything else but useless in shallow water. And this is a bait that we love to use. This is a 1/2 ounce. We can fish it super shallow all the way out to about 20, 25 feet deep. This is a Dell Hollow Tackle hair jig. I think it's called the Punisher. And it's one of my favorites to use. This is the camo color. And I've got a Paca Slim on it. So it's a Paca Crawl Slim. Works very well. Still real subtle, and so it's a great bait just to throw out there and drag. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll see those bass out there on the bank on the bottom, and I'll throw this in right on their heads and let it sit there. Sometimes I'll give it a little hop, see if they're in the mood to react. Sometimes I'll just give it a little drag. And we've caught a ton of fish on a jig this year from fish we've seen. And that was number 3 in my top 4. Geeks, I tell you this all the time, and again, for you geeks that are going to be upgrading your electronics, you need to go check out the Ionic lithium batteries. I've got my whole boat powered with it. It's a whole boat system. It is incredible. This is our 3rd winter. We've not had the first problem, and this boat does not sit in a heated garage, so it's cold where it's at. We have not had the first problem with the charger, with the batteries. One of our favorite batteries is the 16 volt that we use to run our forward facing sonar. Now what's great about it is it's a compact size, so you can actually use it on a kayak or a tin boat. It actually fits in your rod locker, and it comes with its own charger. So go check it out. I got one of the best codes out there, Hank 10 right here. Go check them out. Next up is a bait that, man, I think a lot of people just forget about. And it is the original swim bait. It is a great way to catch them in open water. It's a great way to find and catch them down the bank. It's a great way to do a lot of different things. And that is just a good old single tail or kind of ribbon tail grub. This is one of my favorites right here, this Gary Yamamoto grub. It's the 5-inch version. I like to just put it on a ball head 90% of the time. This is an angler tungsten eclipse head, and some of the great things you can do with this is you can swim it in open water, you can shake it. It's something totally different that the bass have not seen. When that tail comes shaking by them, swinging around, you can take and grind it. One of my favorite ways to fish this is let it sink to the bottom and just slow roll it as it's just popping and that tail's just kind of kicking up as you drag it down some pea gravel or some rock. You can take and hop it. There's so many different things you can do with a grub, and a grub to this day just still gets eat. Some of the colors and the other brands that I like, this is the Strike King Rage Tail grub. This is one of my favorites. This is blue glimmer. Any sort of white this time of year is great. Any sort of translucent. Love this blue glimmer this time of year. Love this on the back of a spinnerbait too in the spring, and there's all kinds of videos for that too, but this is a good one. And then next up, this is a great, good translucent kind of smoke, but it's the Zoom Fat Albert. Hard to beat right here. And these are salt and pepper. And by the way, the color is baby bass on the one that I was using, if I didn't say that already, from Gary Yamamoto. And that was number 2 on the list. So finally, I love to target bass during the wintertime that are in the bait balls, around the bait balls, because we know those bass are active. They're feeding. And so what you have to do is you have to run a bait through. A lot of people are throwing underspins. They'll run those underspins through, and those underspins work incredibly well. But something that I've been using now for several years is this right here. I call it a SpinHead. This is by a small company called Destroyer Baits. It's called the Jarhead. He's made me a ton of them. I am a huge fan of them. And I'll put anything from the Easy Shiner on it to the Swing Impact Fat on here. This is a 3.3. Sometimes I'll put a 2.8 on here to really get it downsized. Now he makes these in a bunch of different sizes. Megabass also makes these little baits, and Exxon makes a little smaller. I think they only have like a 2/0, maybe even a 1/0, in some lighter sizes down in the propeller head. By the way, geeks, we don't do memberships or anything like that, and there will be links to everything in this video down in the description, from line to jig head to our favorite swim baits and our favorite trailers on the jig. It'll all be down there in the description below. And the best way to help us out, because we do get the question, what's a great way to support the channel? The best way to support the channel really is just to bookmark those Tackle Warehouse links, or, you know, scan this QR code right here, bookmark it on your phone, and anytime you decide you're going to go to Tackle Warehouse and buy anything, whether it be a rod, reel, bait, go ahead and use our links. It is the best way to support the channel, and it's absolutely free to you. I mean, if you're going to buy baits anyway, it doesn't cost you a single dime extra to help us out. So what I like about this head is this propeller is a little offset. So it's got a, what I call a clover leaf on one side, and kind of this weird, kind of like a spy bait propeller on the other. That really gives it a good shimmy and a little bit of vibration. My favorite way to fish these, like I said, is when they're down in those bait balls. And I'll just take this and swim it through them. Once you see that sort of bubble open up and you can see those bass in there, I just swim it right through, and man, they crush this little setup. I don't know what it is, but if they are actively feeding, I mean, they'll rip the rod out of your hand. I don't care how cold it is. We've caught some pretty good fish doing this. So not all of them's been on camera, but you know, we've had some fun doing this right here. So there you have it. There's 4 baits, or 4 bait categories that you can pick up when all those other baits that, you know, are staples when it comes to forward-facing sonar kind of stop working. And it really is getting to the point, even out in the open water, that they're seeing all the jig head minnows, they're seeing all the jerk baits, they're seeing all of these very common baits. So for me, I like to stay ahead of the game, and I like to kind of tweak and tune what I like to throw when it comes to the forward-facing sonar, whether they are open water or on the bank. All right, so if you want to know how to fish one of the dust spoons with and without forward-facing sonar, make sure you go check out this video right here. Otherwise, questions, comments in the comments section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell. Be part of the 100% Watch Squad, and you geeks rock.